The content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. The content of this channel is for mature audiences. Parental discretion is advised. You're tuned in to the Green Gorilla channel. Please make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell notification button. And please, feel free to share the video. Thank you.
Hello, good people. How you doing out there? I've taken over the airways of the Green Gorilla channel. I think you all know who I am. My name is Clayton Bigsby. How are y'all tonight? How are y'all this evening? You know, I've been thinking about this for quite some time now. Quite a bit of time. And I've come to the conclusion I don't like black people. Now, that ain't strong enough. I hate them. I can't stand them. White power. Black people are some of the laziest, ugliest, dumbest, and stupidest people that ever had the misfortune of walking God's green earth and having ever been born. White power. White power. Black women. Let's talk about black women. Grotesque and ugly with that nappy and kinky and coarse hair. They pump out babies like dogs in heat before marriage, like the true harlots they truly are. The only fitting position for them is as perpetual concubines on the plantation. White power. White power. Oh, and don't forget, we can't forget the black men. Oh, the boys who are servile, cowardly, and possess subcultural values, which allow them to be run over by their own women. They refuse to work and compensate for their weakness by means of sexual conquest. Their manhood extends no further than the tips of their phalluses. What a group of substandard baboons, monkeys, and orangutans. White power. White power. Their culture is backwards, inferior, and savage. They need to either be contained and ruled over or annihilated for the sake of preserving the dignity of humanity. White power. White power. But white people, good people, civilized people, cultured people need to get away from black people at all costs unless they want to become contaminated by the evil and the ominous oogity boogity. White power. White power. You know, my mammy told me a long time ago, ninjas and flies I despise. The more I see ninjas, the more I like flies. White power. White power. You see, it was the white man that taught black people to read, how to bathe, how to build businesses and industry. Are they not enlightened? Have they not worked miraculous wonders? Are they not like gods? Pure and pristine in relation to virtue and rightness, upstandingness, white power. Are not the sacrifices that the good white people have made and the harms that they've caused been nothing more than the divine hand of God and the uncorrupted work of providence and prudence? You know, I suspect nothing good ever came out of Africa except for drums, natural resources that the monkeys didn't know the value of, and slave labor. White power. White power. I mean, look at the state of development they were in when the good white people came into contact with the inhabitants of that dank, dark continent. These people were nothing more than brutes who idolized and fetishize masks and totems like so many children do baby dolls and hero action figures. They're superstitious and irrational. It's almost as if they're stuck in infancy and idiocy. They haven't contributed anything significant to the continuum of human knowledge and progress. White power. White power. And as far as I'm concerned, if they don't like it here, they can always get on a goat and go back to their dung mud huts in Africa. White power. White power. In case you didn't know, it wasn't the Democratic jackasses that freed the slaves. It was the Republican Party. White power. White power. You see, I don't like black people. Even though the revelation has been made that I am indeed black. I didn't do well in high school. Barely made it through with a C average. I wasn't an officer in the military. I enlisted. I took and take orders. I didn't and I don't give them. I didn't make the president's list in college. I graduated with a C average. I'm not part of the management at my place of employment. I'm a disposable employee. I'm average, but my averageness makes me exceptional when I stand next to these low-down, good-for-nothing, oogity-boogity ninjas who make me look bad in front of good, decent white folk with the right kind of values and morals. White power. White power. My mediocrity is my saving grace. I'm like a god next to these imbecilic and substandard monkeys. I am exalted next to these primitive apes. Yeah, I admit it's true. I'm a member of the common herd. But my commonality and my simplicity marks me apart from those stained by the Hamitic curse. See, I'm good. I'm good. I'm superlative next to their depravity, even though I'm not exceptional. Yeah, I'm average, but at least I'm better than them oogity boogities, them pookies and ray rays and the ratchet welfare queens and thugs. White power. White power. I'll fight for white America, not for myself. I'll defend their right to maintain their wealth. I'll fight for their right to spend the truth, because the future is dependent on the pure white youth. Yeah. White power. No mountain is high enough, no river wide. I love me some them. I can't even lie. I'm going to love me some them until the day I die. White power. I just want to get rid of these oogity boogities, but I don't have the power to do it. I don't control the justice system or the enforcement of law. I don't control the system of education or commerce. I buy and sell, but only in the hundreds, not the millions. But yet and still, what I'm about to say might sound a little bit rough, but the cops can't kill these ninjas fast enough. They're junkies, criminals, losers, lowlifes, scoundrels, crooks, troublemakers, and lice. Corporations can't fire them fast enough. And if you get a criminal record, well, that's just too tough. See, I made the right choices. I know I'm the shit. I'm the fly that sits on the dung to lay eggs and spit. I'm valuous, brave, courageous, and superb. But when it comes to doing shit, I can't muster the nerve. Because when I look in the mirror, all I ever see is plain and mundane, old black ass me.
when you look in the mirror and observe what's true, the nigga you see and hate is you. White power. White power. White power. I'll be right back. Quick commercial break. Well, I'm back. I'll leave a link in the chat in case somebody wants to comment on that. But I've been away for a while, and I just figured I had to do that. A little artistic piece, nothing too serious. Wanted to be a little bit sarcastic and comical in my approach to this issue. And a lot of people, a lot of black folks, thank you, Show Me, for the donation. Appreciate that. A lot of black folks, man, the way I see it, man, have internalized their own inferiority and their own self-hate. We despise one another. I don't want it to be that way, but it just seems like it is that way. What's up with that? What's up with that? I hear this too often. Ninjas ain't this, ninjas ain't that. But I'm good. I'm civilized. I'm better. I's better. I's wetter. Are you? I wanted to share a clip with you, man. And it's a brother, man, who is an electrician. And this brother, man, went to work and found a noose hanging around his equipment in his workspace. Let me share the screen. Black electrician found a noose hanging in his workspace in New York, supposed to be the land of liberality, a democratic reserve. In New York's Long Island, that's where the noose was found. Here's a picture of the noose hanging next to his equipment. That's a message. Now, I don't know what you know about the trades, but the trades, especially the electrical trade, it requires mathematical knowledge. You have to be able to perform pre-calculus at least. I know it because I know many electricians. I myself was going to become an electrician, but I had already become vested as an iron worker. I figured, too much, man. I'm not about to go through that ordeal and process all over again, start over as an apprentice. I'm not about to do it and take $15 pay cut. But imagine going to work and seeing a noose around your equipment, but then still harboring these ideas that you're better, you're superlative, you're above it, you made the right choices. You can make all the right choices and still get the treatment. You can still get it. You're not above it, even if you do all the right things. But there it is. There it stands. Imagine that. The police in the New York suburb of Long Island are investigating a report of a noose found hanging in a storeroom at a local business. A Suffolk County police spokesperson confirmed to CNN on Monday. Kyron Taylor, 23-year-old, this man was doing everything he was supposed to do. Everything. Not a Pookie, not a Ray Ray, not a Oogity Boogity, but a young man pursuing a trade so that he can have income, 401k, health insurance, and a whole host of other benefits that comes along with the package of being a union electrician. And he goes to work and this is what he sees. 23-year-old man, working as an apprentice since December, doing everything right. He worked at Cooper Power and Lighting Corp. And he came to work not too long ago, April 20, 8 days ago. And a noose was hanging in his workspace. And basically he says, seeing this took my breath away and I really did not know what to do or what to think, says Taylor, who is black, in a statement. His lawyer, Frederick Brewington, said his client called the police because he feared for his safety. Now imagine that. Imagine calling the police because you fear for your safety in a nation where you could be yourself killed by the very same people who are here to protect you. Imagine that. Imagine relying on the very same persons who, in instances, do you harm unjustly, but then you got to look to them in order to protect you from harm's way or to get you out of harm's way. Imagine that. Thank you, BGS. Appreciate that, sir. Imagine that. Imagine that. His lawyer said his client called the police because he feared for his safety. He also contacted his union. Now, I don't know what you know about unions. I don't know if you've ever been a member of a union. I am a member of a union. Treasurers, president, vice president, all white. I myself have been on the job and seen the N-word spray painted on a trash can. And there were several black people who were working on the site. Imagine what it's like to see that. Knowing that you're just working. You're doing what you're supposed to be doing. You're working. Busting your ass off. That's hard work, man. I'm an iron worker. All we do is pick up steel all day, every day. And tie rebar. And connect joists. Vertical and horizontal members. All day, every day. Unload trucks. Get cuts and scrapes and scratches all day. Up high, down low, in mud, water, all day long, in the cold, as much as 20 below zero, or 105 degrees outside. You're working on hard steel. Imagine you're working hard and you see that. Busting your ass off, and that's what you see. So anyway, Taylor and Brewington both claim that Taylor's boss scolded Taylor for calling the police. Can you imagine that? You went to go tell your boss, you called the police, and the boss got upset with you because you didn't want to contend with the issue of race or racism in your workplace. It's supposed to be a joke, right? Ha ha ha, a noose. Funny though, right? Race ain't a problem though. The only problem is us. We're our biggest enemy. It's us. Can't worry about this. Can't walk and chew bubble gum. Can't handle both issues ambidextrously. We got to deal with one issue at a time. And the most pressing issue is black pathology, right? Can't deal with this. Oh, just laugh it off. Ha ha ha. Because we got oogity boogities. Hmm. Hmm. So his boss scolded him for calling the police. And the boss declined to talk to CNN through either email or phone. We don't want to deal with this. I don't want to deal with it. Taylor also said in his statement that this was not the first time he had been the target of harassment by his coworkers. See, these people know that they have the market cornered. They know that. But how servile will you be? How toady? How obsequious? How far will you bend over before you lash out? How long? Don't say you never experienced it and you're black, because that's a lie. Please don't say you've never experienced racism and you're a black man surrounded by white folks. Please don't tell me you haven't, because you know that is a lie. It's a lie. Or either you're too servile, too toady, or obsequious to even acknowledge or understand it. Maybe you're hermeneutically challenged, interpretively challenged. You can't even see what's around you. Guess police can't kill us fast enough, huh? Can't get fired quick enough, huh? Hmm? Hmm? He says, I'm the only African American working for Cooper Power and Lighting. And usually there are a lot of times when you will be the only black employee in a trade on a job site. Now, this is New York City. You mean that there's nobody black in the city of New York who's qualified, competent, knowledgeable, educated enough to join the ranks? This is a city that has a high concentration of African Americans. So you mean he's the only person working, only black person working in the trades of electricity in that city or in that area, that geographical location? Really? But there's no problem with race. It's just we don't show initiative. We're lazy, shiftless, spineless, no good loafers and chiselers. That's who we are, right? I get it. I understand. He said, I've been targeted by this pure hate and I just don't know what to think. When will people stop thinking it is all right to terrorize black people? Brewington said that the union helped Taylor find a new place to work, and Taylor's first day at his new employer was Monday. The attorney said his client remains heavily impacted by what happened and has sought out counseling to deal with the trauma of the incident. He's highly upset, as he should be. Brewington said of Taylor, he said to me that besides being disgusted, I'm afraid. And I said, you can't live in fear, but being afraid is not unhealthy. And that's the end of that. So all I'm trying to do is put forth the idea that, yeah, there are some problems inherent in black culture. We know this. But it doesn't give us an excuse to turn a blind eye to racial injustice when we see it. It's not a fabrication. It's not something that's just being made up. I can point to more than just one story, one anecdote. We can look at numbers and statistics, empirical data to demonstrate there's something foul and amiss here. But we're not statesmen. We're not legislators. We don't bang gavels. We don't develop policy. We don't run commerce. We don't control educational institutions. We just sit and take it. What the hell are we going to do? My goal has always been, let's bond together, even in disagreement, and create an institution whereby we can make decisions collectively. But instead of even making an attempt to do that, all I see and I hear is oogity boogity shit. Oogity boogity. Oogity boogity. And it'd be different if I was making it up. Police can't kill them fast enough. Ryan, welcome to the show. How are you doing, sir? Can you hear me? Ryan, you are now on the Green Gorilla channel. If you have something to say, sir, now it is your time to say it.
Yeah, I'm here. Yeah, I'm here. I'm sorry. I still had it on. Silent.
What's going on, brother Ryan? And look,
no,
whatever your opinion is, I am welcome for you to express it.
Oh yeah, I know that. No, I listen to you all the time, man. I listen to you all the time. I like your energy and your passion. So I'm actually pretty cool with all that. But
Thank
I
you,
just
sir.
wanted to chime in, because I was in the military for a bit, and I had to deal with a whole bunch of racism, obviously, and that's one of the main reasons why I got injured, because of that. Obviously, us black men can't feel pain.
Yeah.
So they tore my back up pretty bad.
Yeah.
But it's all right though. I got them back. But yeah, I just want to chime in because I definitely agree with you, especially being in like when I was in the military. You're away from like all your people. Even now, obviously, I live in the United Kingdom. You're away from all your people, and you just deal with it, man. And it really tears you down, man. It tears you down. But then the problem is the fact that if you come from a bad neighborhood, it's like it's just a double-edged sword. It's like you can't stay home, but then if you leave home, you by yourself.
Right.
So that's all I really wanted to say, to be honest.
Well, my question to you is, a lot of black men, they get out of high school and maybe even go to college and complete college, and they go to the military. And look, I almost, I took the ASVAB to become, a Marine, and I passed it, and with flying colors, and they were going to put me in military officer training school. And I also got accepted into graduate school, and some other, opportunities opened up for me as well. But, I talked to my father, and he said, look, if you don't have to go to the military, and he's a Vietnam veteran, okay? And he used to work on airplanes. He's an airplane mech.
Yeah, that's what I did. I was on the planes. When I was in the Middle East, I did convoy and security duty, though. But I was an electrician and mechanic on the jet planes.
Yeah, so he performed a similar role, okay? And, his advice to me was, look, if you don't have to do that, don't do it. Now, I'm not knocking black men who do this. That's not the issue. I'm not trying to denigrate.
Oh, no, hell, stay out the military. No. Do not go into the military.
Well, but every man has a choice, okay? Now, for some people, it works out. I've had several frat brothers, family members, and close associates who went to the military, and it changed their life. I mean, they were able to see different people from different cultures outside of the context of the U.S. And, it was positive for them. But things can go wrong. But ultimately, man, when you surrounded by...
One of the things that I know that BGS said, he was saying that the money's in the military, and he's absolutely right. Because, like, especially, like, I always try to tell black men that's in the military, like, when you get out, make sure that but especially if you get hurt, keep detailed paperwork. Make sure when you get out, go to the VA, go personal. You can go to a personal doctor, make sure you get checked out, because like, that's why I'm good now, because they gave me 100% disability. So I'm paid for the rest of my life, tax free, my kids' college education. That's the only positive thing I can say. If we get out of it, you can change your life. You're absolutely right about that.
And I commend you for your service, because I mean, you never know what you're risking when you go into the military. You don't. Okay. But just know, you're surrounded by a group of people who oftentimes still harbor ill intent towards people like you. And you could try to dismiss it, ignore it, downplay it, but it does take a toll. It does have an impact and an effect on your psychological and your emotional well-being. Okay. And so
Oh yeah, you're absolutely right. Yeah, no, you're right. You're absolutely right. I'm definitely totally on board with that. Yeah, definitely. I don't like. That's not. It's like this. It's not. It's not good being like the token. But once you marry into a family, like I'm married into my wife. I'm married. I'm married right now. And I like. I don't have that. I don't have really. I don't come from a good family. So it's not like I could be around. Just like it's just not that simple sometimes. But that even messes with your mental health
yeah, it
because
does.
you want things to be one way, but it's impossible. Like you didn't choose to be born into your family. You didn't choose for certain things. You just have to just go through life and make the best decisions that you can. The only issue that I have is the fact that at times, you do get people that judge you. Like, yeah, I had to go into the military. Yeah, my wife is not black, but they don't know the whole story. They
Right.
don't know the whole story. They don't even want to hear the whole story.
Well,
And then at that point in time, I just shut it down.
yeah, well, one thing, I encourage black men who do go to the military to know is the history of black men's contribution towards the armed forces in the United States, the treatment that they had and what men did when they got home, the treatment that they received when they got home. I like for black men to know about the deacons of defense and the role that they played in the civil rights movement. Um, you know, and I want them also to be politically conscious and aware of, you know, racism, although people don't like to argue that it exists anymore. It's like we live in a post-racial society. We don't. Okay.
Oh no, I do that all the time. I'm always on it. Like I was, that was one of the things I was in trouble with in the military with.
Right. Well, brother, thank you, man, for coming on the
Well,
show.
I'll let y'all. Yeah, thanks, man. I'll
And
let
thank
y'all.
you for being a
Thanks.
long time listener and supporter. I appreciate you, sir. And be well,
No, I
man.
told you. You already know I love your channel. It's a virtual library to me, man.
Hey, man, I
I'm,
appreciate it, man. Every
all
now
right,
and
man.
then, peace. And let me just say this before, I introduce all the other brothers who came on the panel. What came before was sarcasm and irony. That's all it was. It's not a serious catalog of my viewpoints or my ideas. But what I wanted to do was to point out what I consider to be some of the absurdity related to some of the opinions that we have, and how those opinions to me are indicative of some internalized racism. Okay. Well, we grew up with family members who've said these things. It's not like we are the first people to come forward with these ideas. These ideas were things that our parents instilled within us, right? And it's conditioning. And the question is, how can we uncondition and deprogram so that we can understand our political reality? And not that's not making excuses for indolence and pathology, but it's still being cognizant and aware of the political reality that you have to experience on a day-to-day basis in the United States of America. That's all it is. Okay. So I would like to welcome O,
Yeah.
Eric Ingram, and Mr. Heat. How y'all doing today?
Great.
I'm good, GG.
Doing good,
Glad
Doc.
to be here. Thanks for letting me up.
Hey,
Yeah.
man, always, man.
I would like to. Can I ask you a question, Green Grill?
Most certainly, man. And whatever opinion you have is fine with me. I'm not going to castigate you or tear you down. Whatever you think is fine with me.
Right.
I just want to have the dialogue. So go ahead, my brother.
I agree with like some of what you say, but I think that just looking at it when you're like a professor, right? You're a academic professor, right?
Well, I have a PhD, so
In what?
I have a doctoral degree in philosophy.
Philosophy. Okay. I agree. I think that a lot of the time you put too much of a academic flavor on your like analysis of the black male and like the black male's condition. But I understand why you do that. But I feel that sometimes maybe it gets too becomes like intelligentsia, the whole intelligentsia thing, the whole academic thing. It gets too much. Me, I'm not academic, so I totally understand that. But some of the things where you bring back like those in like the 19th century, and you're comparing that to what black men do today in the street. I mean, it doesn't. I just don't. It's hard for me to agree with that. You know.
Well, the question is why? Like, what is it specifically that you? I understand that there's a difference in time, right? So one could argue there's no longer de jure racism. Okay, there are no segregation policies enshrined into law.
Brother, I think I want to talk about. I totally me. I grew up in mostly in an all white town. Not all white town, but it was a mixed. It was upper middle class town and stuff. I've seen racism. I know that there's racism. I mean, I know me. I'm a young kid. I know that I've seen racism. And it's mostly it's been like that 50s, 60s type of racism I've seen. Where they just use the N word around you or something. Anyway, but
Yeah, and so look, I am an academician, but before I became an academician, I had prolonged conversations with my father, and he told me about some of his experiences in the military, one being one of them, and just in society in general. I mean, he grew up in Cortland, Alabama, and afterwards he moved to Chicago with his parents, and he started his life in Chicago. And at that time, I mean, my father's 80 years old. And by the way, my father, man, I've been away from doing shows lately because my father, man, has to have brain surgery. So, I'm kind of bugging over that as well. It's not cancerous, but he still has to undergo a procedure where they're going to go through his nose and, cut off a piece of his pituitary gland or a tumor that's in his pituitary gland. So I got real life issues sometimes. So I pull back from doing the show to contend with some of the stuff I got to deal with. But just listening to him tell me these stories, he always wanted me to be aware, and my mother as well. They wanted me to be aware of what I am facing in the context of the society in which I live. And it's not again an excuse for black men to be indolent or to be pathological or to engage in criminal behavior. But it is a clarion call for you to be aware and cognizant of your political reality. That's it. And to actually do something about it. Now, I've been critical of the left and social justice movements, in particular Black Lives Matter. I don't think that's a social movement that actually had the best interest of black men and the families of, the people who have been extrajudicially killed by officers in the streets. I don't think it was a movement that was a grassroots movement. I think it was just, activism. But, I've been critical of the left. But I'm also still aware and cognizant of what's going on with the racial issue or the racial component. And I mean, to ignore institutional, structural, and ideological racism to me is just naive. It's naive to me.
I want to comment. Racism it does exist, but I don't think it's not a structural issue. I really do not believe it's not a systemic or a structural issue. That's just a thing between individuals.
Well, then I would hasten to say that you perhaps don't understand how racism actually works. Racism is not just a feeling or an attitude. And a lot of people think that that's just what racism is. It's prejudice enacted against one individual and another. And, that's not how I perceive racism in its totality. Racism can be institutional, it can be structural, or it can be ideological. That's why I felt it was necessary for me to be clear and define the terms and to outline the concepts so that you could have the language at your disposal, so that you could, work your way around it. But a lot of us, we have common sense or folk wisdom about these issues, but we really haven't done the research. And so it's my duty to do the research. Now you can agree with it or disagree with it, but I mean, we just can't go with our feelings. Like if I can demonstrate to you that structurally, Black folks have been, for the longest period of time, denied the same kind of benefits and the same kind of social capital as their white peers. It just like, we're talking about housing, how there were restrictive covenants, how there were redlining policies, how they were prevented from being able to get FHA loans.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the reason why Black people live in concentrated ghettos and don't have the same kind of wealth as their white counterparts. Those are the reasons why. Now, we can talk about what we do from here and what we can do to make efforts in order to, John Henry our way through it, because we must persist and endure regardless as to whatever is happening to us. We have to, okay? But, it doesn't mean that we have to turn a blind eye to injustice when we see it. Or we can't rectify what's been wrong and demand that be done right by. That's my viewpoint on it. And also, the larger issue here is, to me, American society is set up or established in such a way, man, that you only got like a small amount of people with the largest concentrations of wealth, and they control the political process, the economic institutions, and a whole range of other functions and bureaucracies that make this society go round. And the question is whether or not America is meeting up to its own ideals. We say this is a republic, a democracy, a state that allows for life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness and the acquisition of property. Well, we're going to make them stand by that. We have to ensure that they make good on their own ideals and principles. And if they don't, well, when you got to think, when it didn't work for them, what did they do? They rebelled. And I'm not saying that, Black people are in a political position or a tactical position to rebel, but I mean to lie down and not to stand and fight for what is right. To me, it's just it's naive. It's a little off to me. But
so do you think we should alleviate this problem through more government handouts?
I don't like. I've already done shows about this. I've done shows about the Great Society and welfare, and how welfare was a system designed to manage Black women's bodies and family life for both Black men and women, and it had disastrous consequences. I've already done shows about that.
I agree. Okay, but the one thing I don't agree with you on is, why do you put it down on, this was just there to just there's this whole scheme to hurt the Black family, when that could have been. But the thing is that we had agency in our own lives to not accept that welfare. You know what I'm saying? We didn't have to accept that. We didn't have to accept the welfare. We didn't have to make that bad decision of accepting the welfare. welfare.
but the deal has been set. It's already been done. Okay, the damage has been done. You're talking about at least 3 generations of families that have undergone the Faustian bargain called the Great Society. It was a program, and black people chose it. Some, others did not. Like my family was never on the welfare dole or the dime. We never were. Okay, but that's my family. Um, some people opted for it, not knowing what the consequences would be in hindsight. So now that we have a brighter and a more clear vision, we can see the adverse impact that it's had. But I wouldn't go so far as to say that, every handout is necessarily, an impetus for laziness. That's, to me, absolutely ridiculous. Like, think about the Homestead Act in America, where, immigrants were just given free plots of land as long as they, were able to be productive with the land. Imagine if, black people were able to have in on that, or even the FHA loan policies and the GI bills, which were government subsidies designed to help white America build an economic floor. I mean, the government can do things productively when it wants to, or it can do things in an imperfect and, in a piecemeal way and create dysfunction. And so, I'm not just going to go so far as to say that every time government is involved, like, are there instances in which government can be intrusive? Yes, I do think so. I don't think that paternalism is the end all be all. I don't think that great society measures in bureaucracy and technocracy is the right way to go, because I am a deliberative democratic theorist. That's just what I am. And what I mean by that is, I think that bureaucracies should not be run top down. They should be horizontal and should take feedback and input from people at the lower rung of the totem pole, because only the person in the situation knows how to shoot pinches, and some bureaucrat somewhere doesn't have all the answers just because, they have education or, they have some sort of expertise in a, specific area of theoretical learning. But at the same time, you got farmers now who are getting subsidies. They're getting paid not to grow crops. You think about, like Martin Luther King Jr. said some 60 years ago, like, they're land grant colleges that were, created with government funds to help farmers, understand how to grow crops on the land. So the government can do things that are positive, but it can also do things that are negative. But, that's anybody. That's any institution or any organization. The only thing I ask for is, if there is going to be tinkering on behalf of the government, that it should also involve, the people, and not just, what's going on with these bureaucrats and these technocrats. I'm not an advocate of paternalistic bureaucracy. So that's my response to that. But I want to get some other people. They've been here for a while hanging out. I want to give them the opportunity to speak.
Right. That's fine.
Well, I want to talk about the legacy of unions in the U.S. of A. They were not meant for. They were not developed for black men laborers, skilled laborers. They were meant for white laborers. By the time that black men had gotten in on the unions, there was a lot of controversy with that, because once the black men got into the unions, okay, that means that their salaries had to be raised somewhat towards parity with white union laborers. And white union laborers did not like that, and they bitched and moaned to their union representatives. Okay, this is not so ancient history either. We talking about 50s, 60s, 70s even. I remember my grandmother was the first person. My grandmother, on my father's side, she was the first black person that I heard say, she said straight from her mouth, "I don't trust no crackers." Now, she told me that not because of that she just hated white people in general, was because of her experiences with them.
Right.
Um,
Well, look, I've, as a member of a trade union, I had to learn the history of the American Federation of Labor and the Congress of Industrial Organizations. I learned what they did in order to fight for the benefits that they now receive. And I know how conditions were prior to the actions, some of them radical, some not. These people actually fought literally with their hands, with bombs. They destroyed property, they burned property, they took baseball bats and beat up scabs. They did a lot to fight for the 40-hour work week. And, we just take it for granted because we have it, paid vacation. We have it, breaks, lunch breaks, periodic, just mental breaks from the occupations, where we work. We just take it for granted. Sick time, sick leave, all of these things are things that we take for granted, and none of us would deny ourselves these benefits when we become employed. None of us would say, "Oh, you taking sick time? You shouldn't take that. That's being lazy." Nobody would say that. Nobody would say, "Oh, I'm not gonna take my vacation time." Right?
Yeah.
But but these white guys. See, my father also was giving me some information about Alabama and the oil industry and how blacks were driven out of it. And because there were a lot of blacks that had oil wells in Texas too, and how they were discriminated against and driven out of these industries, and that these groups of seemingly benign white folks, they hoarded the benefits for themselves. They saw us as competition, and it should be known. It just should be understood that the skill that black men had during slavery. We were the ones that were the ones doing everything. We were the ones building the houses. We were the ones doing the plumbing. We were the ones. It was our labor. So to some degree, it had to be skilled. We built the White House.
Damn straight.
We
drew up the blueprints. Drew up the blueprint for it too.
We were skilled, okay, but they drove us out of the skilled trades. And
it wasn't as though we didn't have doctors and scientists. Benjamin Banneker was a real person, we had skilled people. We've always
academicians. We've always had black people who were excellent. Okay. There's never been a time in American history in which there were just black folks who were just absolutely dumb, aloof, indolent, and ignorant. Okay. Now, I'm not saying that there weren't a group of people who were, just like you got white rednecks and, who are addicted to methamphetamine and live in trailer parks. But, those ideas about those people don't translate into a stereotype about all of white people, but they do when it comes to black people. Okay. And that's, these caricaturizations, this stereotyping, is primarily meted out to us by the media. And this is why we should resist against it, because, like you said, you got Benjamin Banneker, you got Booker T. Washington, you got Carter G. Woodson, you got W.E.B. Du Bois. You got all of these people. You got Charles Drew. And this is the funny thing to me, also, like, it's kind of disparaging about the intelligentsia or the kind of attack on academia. Now, I will say that, a lot of lately, within the past 60 years, you've had a lot of wonkiness coming out of the academy. And, I'll be the first to admit it, that it needs to be pushed back against, because they've taken things a little bit too far. But at the same time, you can't discount intelligence and erudition on a grand scale just because you're witnessing the current slice in time, and there's been a shift in political orientation within the past few decades. So what are we going to do now? Say that the scribes in Egypt were a useless class, or the griots in Africa were useless, or the priests who were the preservers of knowledge during the medieval era, or the men of the Enlightenment. So all of that just becomes unnecessary now, because there's a group of guys who are black, who been listening to right-wing magazine shows, who want to accuse all of the members of academia, which it's not, because most members of the academy are not as far left as you think they are. I mean, they let on a lot, okay, and they don't speak a lot, because they're almost in the same position that men in the manosphere are, black men in the manosphere. They don't want to say anything for fear of being pigeonholed into a category of being regressive. They want to keep their jobs because they got families too. But at some point, the order has to be restored. Some sort of balance has to be restored. And you got men who have doctoral degrees who are speaking out and saying things and trying to push back as well. And as we do so, we get castigated and stereotyped as to being the very same people that we're even taking umbrage with, which to me is just utterly ridiculous. And then, you also got to think, man, some of the greatest black people in history have had advanced degrees. We're talking about Dr. Charles Drew, who helped perfect the use of blood plasma. Not that was a benefit not only to black folks, but to mankind. Like blood transfusions during the war. Are you serious? The perfection of the use of blood plasma. Okay, you're talking about Dr. Carter G. Woodson, as I spoke about him earlier, the person who created Negro History Week, which eventually, transferred or transformed into Black History Month, and he created an organization, called the African Society. I forget what it's called, ASLA, for Life and History, the African American Society for the Learning of African American Life and History. So it's there are people doing research about a whole host of issues, and it doesn't all make sense apart from one another. But like when you look at it in the totality, like what nation or group of people would take its wise men and put them down? The Asians don't do that. The monks and the men of letters in their society are honored, as well as in Europe, as well as in native Africa. I mean, anywhere you look in the world, you're going to see wise men, and they're regarded as almost holy. But in our community, we lambaste these people because we've been listening to right-wing magazine shows, and we want to identify with these individuals. But like I don't want to get caught up in it all. But half the truth ain't the whole truth.
Well, Gigi, I want to ask you: are you familiar with
any of y'all can chime in the conversation at any point you want to. BGS honors, A.L. Evans honors, Hago Damas honors, Mr. Heat honors, and O also honors. Yeah, go ahead.
And I just want to say real quick, hey, support your scholars, because whether it's right, people think that just so-called left-wing politics or left-wing ideas get come from the academy. Okay, check out your right wing and check out all those think tanks right on the right. Okay, and all the PhDs that they recruit that sit on those boards to come out of Harvard, Yale, Princeton, MIT, Stanford. Okay. Where do you think those think tanks come from? Who do you think sits on those boards? Okay, who do you think is regular blue collar guys that fly to Davos and set your policy? Do you really think that?
Yeah, I mean, like the Chicago School of Economics is the kind of economic policy that we're
Brookings Institute. Okay,
Yeah.
Brookings Institute
Yeah.
is not a left wing. It's not a left wing institute. It's right wing. Okay, the Little Hoover Institute, the Stanford Institute. We can go on and on and on. All those institutes are actually, all those people do not or don't have high school or GEDs. Man, they're all PhDs. All of them.
Mm-hmm.
Just set your policy. Go ahead.
And yeah, and you're accurate about that.
Council
thank you,
on Foreign
BGS, for putting it in
Relations.
Council of
perspective.
Foreign Relations. In fact, the guy, Dr. Gavin, comes out of Texas, out of the University of Texas, wrote Gold Dollars and Power, right? He wrote that book. That book is like $50 now. Okay, you can't even buy it. It's hard to even find a copy. Okay, they took him out of the University of Texas. They gave him his own institution and shipped him to MIT. Okay, he sits on boards.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
Are you all familiar with Dr. Glenn Lowry and Professor Glenn Lowry and Professor of Water over at the
John
Columbia?
McWhorter.
Yeah,
John McWhorter
McWhorter,
at Columbia, right? And Dr. Lowry is at Brown, another Ivy League school.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, when you see people up there setting your policies, okay. In fact, how many politicians do you know that are making your laws come from the grassroots that don't have degrees?
Yeah.
Now, I'm going to tell you this: I'm in favor of making politics more grassroots than what it is. That's just my personal opinion. I think it's become too technocratic. I think it's become corrupted by corporatist, interest, and to be perfectly honest, the whole concept of capitalism came from an intellectual. I mean, if you've read Adam Smith's Wealth of Nations, then you would know this man was a philosopher. It wasn't, I mean, like most of the ideas that you have, whether they be right or left, whether they be right or left, they're coming from academicians. Okay. So, I mean, it's not just that there's the left, you got the left and the right in the academy. But right now, as it pertains to the social political landscape, there's been, this influence of, women and gender studies departments and also African American studies or race studies departments. And, they've become monolithic. And do they need to be checked? Yes. I do think that they need to be checked. But I mean, you can't stop them from saying what they're saying. You just have to be able to reason and argue with them but the media picks and chooses what it perceives to be, what justice is. Okay.
And like Dr. Johnson said, we said this, the trash goes out on Tuesday policy, right? There's a direct line from the academy to the people that are in charge over these policies, not just in politics, but also in media, in newspapers, in business, because they become the people in the suites, A, B, and C. There's a direct line. So the thing is to say that, you can say that you don't believe in the academy and we put too much emphasis on the academy. The thing is that, like it or not, your policy is set in the academy, because that's where the minds are actually indoctrinated in the first place, right? And if you don't have people that are inside that academy to actually have some kind of pushback or some kind of counter narrative to actually make this more balanced and more fair, guess what you're going to get? You're going to keep getting what you're getting. Okay. You got to remember your say what?
I said that's not necessarily true, because FDR, well, I said it's not totally true, because FDR, when he was trying to implement the New Deal, right, he got a letter from who's it, Keynes, right, and he just threw it in the trash, because he knew that these economists working in academia don't know really real world economics. They're not really practical.
Okay, guess what your dollar system is based on? Whose work?
What do you mean dollar?
Your current dollar system that you're based on, right? Out of Bretton Woods. Guess whose work it was based on?
Who's it?
Keynes. Keynes. Yeah.
Okay, I don't know.
Because the old gold system doesn't work, and Keynes proved it. If you go read Keynes, if you go read Gold, Dollars, and Power, or you go read I forget what the book is named by Liaquat Ahmed, right? Okay, he said the gold system doesn't work, had to be revamped, right? Especially after you had two wars, World War I and actually World War II. Those were actually gold wars, right, over money. Okay,
Yeah,
because
I mean,
the gold system. Hold on, the gold system doesn't work. Have you read those books?
I haven't read those books. No.
In other words, if you haven't read the books and you haven't studied the gold system like I have since 2007, you need to listen. Okay. In other words, your dollar system, go read Gold, Dollars, and Power. Your dollar system is based on King's work. Guess who was it? Guess whose papers and actually they put at the head of the in 1948 to actually lead the Bretton Woods policy. Guess who they pulled in? Keynes. So your dollar system actually built on Keynesian's work. Okay.
Yeah, so he changed macroeconomics. Okay,
He
he changed macroeconomics, and during the Great Depression, he spearheaded a revolution in economic thinking, and he challenged neoclassical economics. This is just facts. Okay, now one could argue, that there's a difference between practical wisdom and theoretical wisdom. We can have that argument all day, but at the end of the day, you can't deny history, and you can't deny the impact that people who are from the intelligentsia, whether they be right-leaning or left-leaning, that they've had an impact on policies, laws, and institutions in every society throughout the world. I mean,
it goes all the way back to the Egyptian temples. Guess who wrote the law, helped write the laws, taught the kings, and helped put in the policy? The scribes, which is your intelligentsia, which is your priests, which is your learned people.
Yeah, and then also, in fact, back in those days, the priests were the intelligentsia.
Yeah, they were. Well, in fact, up until they made the institutions public, basically, if you weren't a priest, if you weren't in the church, or you weren't a king, you didn't get educated like that.
But I understand that, but much of what comes from academia or intelligentsia, much of it is it just has been disastrous for society in general.
How so?
The road to hell was paved with good intentions, right?
Okay, you're okay. You basically the funding for what we're speaking on right now came out of academia because the capitalist or the what you call it, the capitalist class, which is the private sector, wasn't going to fund it. So what you're speaking on right now is an example of what came out of academia. So how's that bad intentions, or is it disastrous?
I'm not saying that everything from academia. I'm saying I was focusing much on political thought, economic thought. But I'm saying that academia does have a lot of good things. It's not a lot of good things. I'm just saying that a lot of academia, a lot of intelligentsia has again try to do a lot of good things, but has in the end the results have been disastrous.
How so?
But before you just don't press them too hard.
All right.
This is what I'll say. This is what I'll say. People keep referring to the academy like there's a monolithic, like there's only one viewpoint being espoused there. That's
out of academia, and that's ruining.
And have you ever been to the academy? Are you a college graduate?
I'm in my last year of college.
Okay, so what are you studying?
Anyway, this is D. Anyone from last time.
What are you studying?
Statistics and mathematics.
Okay, so you're studying statistics and mathematics, okay? And you're learning that in the academy, and you're going to apply it to what?
Probably some engineering technology field.
Okay, so you're learning that in the academy, correct?
Yes, I am.
So the academy is not just useless, right?
I never said it was useless.
If you've taken courses, you know that like your professors have different viewpoints. There's no consensus in the academy. That's what people need to understand. There is no univocal, monolithic consensus on what is right, what is wrong, politically, ethically, morally, at all. And it's absurd to attack an entire institution just on the idea that, okay, well, there's some people who are pursuing cosmic justice as it pertains to the academy. Like you got Thomas Sowell.
Yeah, I was just
You
about to
you
mention
have
that.
you have Glenn Lurie, like the brother said earlier. You got John McWhorter. There's a whole Walter Williams. There's a whole host of people who think independently.
And that's just it is just a low. That's just a social. How about all the you look at all the people that came through the academy, whether they stayed in it or not, that make your machines. Even your computers, even down to your cell phones and your iPhones. Okay.
But
Yeah.
at the end of the day, what we're witnessing now,
Mhm.
as far as I'm concerned, it has something to do with the academy to some degree. But the biggest impact is the media and the corporations who are pushing this. They're pushing the media and the corporations, which people, extol the virtues of incessantly. They're the ones pushing this agenda, because if it wasn't making money, they wouldn't be doing it. They're doing it because it makes money. They're selling women a product.
Right.
And the product that they're selling, it may have been cooked up in the academy by a certain group of radicals there. But I mean, of course, they're not the only people there. But if the media and the corporations decide to use it as a means by which to make money, then you also have to finger point. It's duplicitous to me to only look at one institution or one part of the issue and to single it out without singling out all of the other problems associated with, these kind of viewpoints, the radical left coming to the fore. This is not just the academy. It's the academy in constellation with corporations and the media and government. Okay.
And government,
Because the government is, I'm not going to say a slave to the dollar and corporatist interests, but I mean, those two, the government and corporate interests are pretty much wed together. There's so many books that have been written about this. There's a book written by a philosopher by the name of Sheldon Wolin. There's a political scientist. What is this name? Henry Richardson. There's so many different people who've written about these issues, both from the right and the left. So there's no consensus.
Right.
There's no univocal vision. There's no one opinion that's being expressed within the context of the academy. But I want to leave room. I do want to leave room for some other people to speak up and
I have one question. I have one more question. And I may have to leave after this one. But what do you think about you said that the media you said that the media was a part of the whole process of kind of just like making the black man's image to be totally just absolutely disastrous. Do you think that maybe this process was already there? Because a lot of black men, they like to talk about, it's the media. But maybe, there was already an element there, right, that was destroying itself. And the media kind of just saw what was happening and they just portrayed it.
Nope.
Well, so I've talked about this as well on my shows. I've said, look, there's a long legacy, especially directly after slavery, because directly after slavery, you have Reconstruction.
Before emancipation.
Before. But what I'm trying to say is the average image of a black person during slavery was either the house slave or the field slave, the rebellious slave or the house Negro slave. Okay. But like the house Negro slave appears in books like Huckleberry Finn and Tom Sawyer. You got the gentle black buck who goes around protecting young white boys, not representing the danger or threat at all. It isn't until Jim Crow that you get this, distorted and twisted image of the black male rapist. And we can follow this. People have done studies on this. This is why this is important to study and look at the history and the evolution of imagery and iconography. So you see this, and it makes money because it's sensational, and people will buy, what is sensational, and the corporations know they can sell products by means of continuously putting forth this imagery and this iconography about black men. So
i.e. birth of a slave.
Yeah, so The Birth of a Nation, that movie was one of the first productions. It gave birth to the motion picture industry, actually, and some of the techniques of filmography are still being used, or cinematography are still being used today. So my larger point is this: the media exists because corporations pay for advertisement. Okay, this is how the media runs. If you listen to the radio station, the songs don't make money, the advertisements make money. Okay, when you watch television shows, if you're not paying for cable or subscription, the cable television network makes money through advertisement. Okay, and they're selling products to specific demographics, like just marketing 101. They have a niche. Okay, what is this cable or television network here to do? Well, we sell products to a certain demographic, like white young female, or any females for that matter, from the ages of 13 to 35. And so they target them with programming that they think will be palatable in order to sell them products. So yes, the media is in cahoots. Yes. And the media is driven by the corporate dollars. The media doesn't exist without corporations. They just don't. Okay. Now, yeah, you do have corporations like GE who they own more than just media's. They own infrastructure. Like they build hydroelectric dams and MRIs and stuff like that. So, but the larger issue I'm trying to point out is you're seeing the influx in a viewpoint that's basically here because women have now found their way into social and political equality. Is not going away. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, but what needs to happen is some balance and some measure needs to be instilled. That's the only thing black scholars like me are worried about. Like, where's the balance? Where's the truth? Okay. There has to be some sort of justice restored, because all of the negative imagery and iconography is, to me, oppression, quite frankly. And I know it sells products, but nobody else allows their images to be managed in that way. And that's why I feel like we ought to be vigilant in order, do something about it. But at the end of the day, man, it's not just the academy. It's the media. It's corporations. Okay, all working in conjunction. All of these are like cogs that spin and turn each other. Okay, there's like a symbiotic relationship between all of these institutions. So you can't just pigeonhole one, institution and say, okay, that's the root of all evil. They're all in cahoots, and it's all about money. And unfortunately, the institution, called academia, has become a money, a money or a profit-driven industry. It didn't used to be that way, but it is now. So that's unfortunate, man. I believe in learning for the sake of learning, not learning for the sake of getting rich.
Called corporations. That's why they're called corporations.
And I have to leave. Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, take care. Now, look, I'm the type of individual, I'm going to take on anybody's. I mean, he may not agree with me, and that's fine. But I'm not going to curse him out and call him all kind of bitch-ass niggas on account of it. All right. So that's just my viewpoint on it. We all, this is what you learn in the academy. But unless, you're one of these radical feminists who get to just bark and say shit and nobody says anything for fear of, violating the sensibilities of, damaged women. Nobody wants to do that. Okay. Don't want to be canceled, huh? This damseling, man. I even did a show about this. It's like, if I cry, if I put on the act that I'm hurt and I'm sensitive and emotional, most men are going to respond by, okay, let me back up. There's something wrong there. Men don't know how to handle that shit. But as women move and matriculate into political offices, into corporations, and, bureaucracies, all that room for that crying is there's no crying anymore. You ask for this shit, you got to deal with this shit. You got to deal with it, man.
There's no crying inequality. There's no crying inequality.
Man, there's no crying when you are the fucking president of the United States. You can't get out and start fucking boohooing and shit, talking about, you know, I'm having a bad day. Fuck all that. You got your hands on the codes. You can push the red button. Take us to DEFCON 5. Fuck all that emotional shit. I want to know if you can handle the job.
Nuclear football and trying to be sensitive. How the hell you gonna be sensitive with a nuclear football in your possession? That's crazy talk.
Exactly. I mean, it's, you know, it's what, you know, when you talk about the prejudices within the political system. Remember Steve Biko in South Africa? I got his book. He's got his title, I Write What I Like. Meant that he was talking about what was deeply going on during the apartheid era in South Africa. Okay.
Yeah.
Then we can go to Franz Fanon talking about his experience serving in the French army in Martinique, the island he was born on. He fought for the French army, but when he came home, the French treated him as lesser than a Frenchman. They didn't treat him as a Frenchman. As long as he was in the army, he was all right. When his tenure in the army ended, his service in the army ended, then he was lesser than a Frenchman again.
Yeah, goes all the way back. It goes all the way back to Rome, man.
Kind of sounds like how Charles Faulkner lives his life as a police officer.
Oh yeah.
Respected by day in uniform, but out of the uniform in the evening, looked at as a big
black buck. Yeah,
we know the drill.
Yeah.
And you know, like here's the thing, as far as I'm concerned. Like I think Franz Fanon should be required reading for black men, because he was a psychiatrist. And and you know, I'm not all that keen on Freudian psychology. I kind of think I don't think it's scientific. Okay, that's just my viewpoint on it. Now, if I started doing like shows about the philosophy of science, and I just don't think that you can falsify Freudian analysis. I don't, and any theory that's viable to me has to be falsifiable. You can't falsify that shit. But but I think Fanon is right on this, that you know, the oppressed, they want to be the oppressor. And this plays out in a myriad of ways. It could come in the form of self denigration, self-mutilation, you know, what do they call that complex? Stockholm syndrome. I mean, there's so many different ways that this can manifest. And that's why I did the prelude.
Well, Teddy Hearst went to Stockholm syndrome, didn't she?
Hey, put that book closer to the camera.
You see that? This is a colleague of yours, a philosopher king himself. Can you see that?
Oh yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Yeah. This book, man, here, I'm gonna tell you, this book pissed me off. You hear what I'm saying?
No,
because the way he was writing, it was so deep. How he was writing in a philosophical tone, and he goes through Hume and all these European philosophers, you know, how they rationalize seeing themselves above the African. Okay.
Yeah, Emmanuel Eze, he's, you know, I've read some of his work, and I've read a lot of African philosophy. Okay.
But this brother here,
like we need to read, man. Like this is the thing that confuses me, my brother. I don't mean to cut you off, but this is the shit that confuses me. We have men that consider themselves to be intelligent, but they don't read shit. Or if they do read, they only read secondhand literature, and they don't like get rigorous with what it is that they claim to be knowledgeable about. That's sophomorish to me. That's not erudition at all. That's just confirming your own belief system.
Guilty as charged. Guilty as charged, sir. I have to do better. At least I'm man enough to admit.
And I'm giving you information. Look, put it this way. I've learned over 2,000 years of Western history. Like going all the way back to the pre-Socratic philosophers like Parmenides, Xenophanes, Thales, Anaxagoras, Anaximenes, all the way to Socrates and Plato, to Aristotle, all the way to fucking St. Augustine, St. Thomas Aquinas, John Locke, Hume, Rousseau, Immanuel Kant. Like, I know European history more than most European people do. I know the concepts about ethics. I know the concepts about virtue. I know the concepts about God, the soul, justice, the whole nine. Like I'm not here to try to prove that I'm better than anybody. I'm just trying to give you information because I think that brothers need to be informed, man. All this shit about pissing contest over who's smarter, who can win a debate, that's bullshit to me. You know, I'd rather be in conversation with a man than try to have a pissing contest to try to demonstrate who's the smarter, who's the most intelligent. You know, like speaking of Glenn Lurie and John McWhorter, they just did like a podcast or a YouTube stream about black people wanting to be a badass motherfucker.
Yeah, I saw that.
Like it's like black men like are in search of being a badass motherfucker. Like I'm the badass motherfucker. I'm the tough. It's redneck thinking. All this shit, like Thomas Sowell, it comes from black men wanting to be that big. I'm the baddest nigga. I think what's the young guy who has a channel? Not Fantastic, but his counterpart, the young brother, man, kind of light skinned, short.
Edward.
He calls it the Highland. I've heard Edward speak on this. It's the Highlander.
You talking about Bowling Use?
No, he's talking about Edward Anderson.
Yeah, Edward Anderson. It's like the Highlander syndrome. Like I'm the biggest, baddest. I'm the head nigga in charge.
Yeah,
I'm the motherfucker, and you ain't shit compared to me. You don't match up to me, and it's the signifying monkey shit.
Yeah,
you know, like at some point, see these people, man, came together.
It's crazy.
They worked as a team, collaboratively. When they came here to America, they didn't come individually on the boats. They came as a squad. On the boats under the direction of King Ferdinand and Isabella. They didn't come here like, oh, I'm just doing what I want subjectively. They work as a team.
Yeah.
This is how they get down. And this is why we continue to go through the same bullshit over and over incessantly. There's no teamwork, and they never had consensus. They understand that consensus is not necessary for movement. But we demand.
And if memory serves me correct, BGS, this has been going on in our culture since Jim Crow. We've been acting like this.
No, actually, if you read the Slavery's Capitalism or the half that's never been told, right? They'll tell you actually started with the slaves picking cotton in like the 1810s, right? When they actually had put the foreman, or what they call the slave master, over people, right, with the whip to make sure that you did your job.
It's the gun line, boss. The gun line, boss.
That's where it comes from. So the head nigga in charge basically is the person with the whip actually driving the people. Okay, that's where it comes from. That the fact that's where the foreman in capitalism actually came from. The foreman actually in the fields. The slave master in the field actually whipping the slaves to get more production out of them. That's where it comes from. That's where the head. That's where
the junior overseer.
And that's where the proletariat, the bourgeois class actually came from. The middle management. That's where it actually developed from. And they used that model to actually transfer it over into the industrial model that was going on in Northern Europe. Okay, so this is where it comes from. It came way before emancipation. It came right out of slavery on them cotton fields, right, where they had to keep increasing production with that whip and actually weighing the poundage of cotton versus a scale, right? And they had to push these managers and push these slaves to produce more and more and more cotton and become more and more efficient. So if you actually wanted to not get whipped and have an easier life, you became the head nigga in charge. Yeah. Not the owner, but
and some people opt for that position, and some people opt for it. Like you all saw Django Unchained. I mean, it's a caricaturization of the kind of men who play that role. But you saw Steven in that movie. Yeah, you know, like when the boss hit his knee, he hurt.
A lot of Green Gorilla. We got a lot of people in our society on our side of the clan who that's all they espouse to get to that position.
On both sides, on both sides. If you listen to white people in their hierarchy, especially in industry or any kind of industry, right? What is that white person shooting for? To be that foreman, to be that person in charge, to be that boss, right? Even over other white people. So it looks differently when black people do it, but it's the exact same thing. Same thing's going over on the white side of YouTube in the manosphere, right?
Yeah, who's gonna be the boss? Who's gonna be the boss? Who's gonna be the head guy?
I gotta be the head NHIC in charge.
Yeah, exactly. So it goes both ways.
And this is look, but at the end of the day, like when it comes to politics, that shit don't work. You know, I mean, it works to a certain extent when you know you got a figurehead and there's actually a procedure or a process that people have to go by in order to to elect somebody. But at the end of the day, look, white people get shit done because they create institutions and create a condition in which they can actually have collective decision making. That's it. And it doesn't. If you lose, motherfucker, you lose. It moves on. Like there's always going to be disagreement amongst leaders. There's always going to be disagreements amongst politicians. That's not the point. The point is the institution does the heavy lifting. It's a commitment to the institution and getting shit done. And that's what we don't do. And it's unfortunate, that we don't do it, but that's the only way things are going to actually move. Is if we create organizations, institutions of our own. And we did so during segregation because we were forced to. Okay. But now it's like the white man's glass and his ice water is just so cold. It's like, shit, that black ice ain't doing it.
Yeah.
It's like it's if we want what we refuse to actually do. And look, and let me just say this before I move on. I'm gonna let y'all have the floor. Look, I love Aristotle. Okay, he white boy from Greece, taught Alexander the Great. Okay, he was his tutor. Okay, and Alexander conquered Egypt and most of the Mediterranean world. Okay, he's a practical man. Okay, Aristotle is. So I do understand there's a difference between what he called episteme, phronesis, and what was the other one? It's episteme, phronesis, and something else. I can't remember the other one right offhand, but yes, if you don't have practical wisdom, experience is the best teacher. Okay, it's superlative to theoretical understanding. But if you have no theory, you really don't have practical wisdom either, because you also have to use your mind and think your way through your experiences. You just don't do it ex nihilo. You don't have to learn over and over and over again. What other people have made mistakes related to. That's not practical at all. That's stupidity. Okay. So the idea. I get it. So there's moral wisdom, there's theoretical wisdom, and then you have practical wisdom. Those are the three. Okay. But at the end of the day, being practical, I'm down for that shit. Like I'm one of the people who is an advocate for being practical. I believe that there's a difference between book smarts and common sense. You don't, like, a kid can do math. Like a 9-year-old somewhere is a genius who can perform differential and solve differential equations. There's a kid somewhere who can do that shit. Would I want him to be the president of the United States or govern my affairs because he has theoretical wisdom? Absolutely not. No, because he doesn't have experience. Okay, so. But and also something that troubles me about the black culture in the community is the disrespect we have for elders, man. You got 30-year-old guys cursing out and disrespecting 60-year-old men, and these same 30-year-old guys wouldn't want 15 or 12-year-olds disrespecting them. So there's no evolved culture anywhere in the world that doesn't have some restraint and some respect and some modicum of civility towards people who are elders, because they understand that the elders are the ones who actually hold practical wisdom. They're the ones that have it, because they've lived longer than you have. Now, there's some old ass dummies out here. No denying it. But as a whole, collectively, generally speaking, older people know more because they've been through more.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So
Green Gorilla, even those old ass dummies know more than those 30-year-olds. Why? They've lived to be 60 years old. You can't take it. You can't take nothing from anybody. My grandfather told me a long time ago, you can learn from an idiot. You can learn from an idiot. I don't put anything past anybody.
Me either. And I've said this, and I'll say it again. I haven't really said it on the air here, but I've gotten more wisdom from wine heads on the corner than I have from people with doctoral degrees. I have. I'm just gonna keep it 100 because they've had it.
Again,
had experience. They've had life experiences that some of these privileged people in these positions have not had. Okay.
Say it again for the people in the back, Gigi.
I've heard winos in the hood say some shit that's been more profound and give me better advice than some of these people in these esteemed positions. And so don't take my word for it, but damn, you ain't got to curse me out and call me all kind of bitch ass niggas and tell me fuck you while you doing it. If you disagree with what I say, just disagree with what I say. But otherwise, man, come see me. Fuck all the talking. You know, I'm a dude for action. I love to throw my hands. I like
Sometimes
like,
you just have to chalk it up to them being an invent. Yeah, sometimes you have to chalk it up to those guys when they doing it. They just reverting to their effeminate state and they childlike wisdom because they like what did Dr. Clark say? Oh, if you on my level, then we can have a debate. But if you, I'm teaching, period, point blank.
But I want to respond to this brother Triggerman. He says, "Crack kill elderly respect," and I get that. I understand that, brother. But look. Drugs have been here from the inception of this country. Like, cocaine was in dope, called dope cola. They had like cocaine was in Coca-Cola. And, black people in the 50s and the 30s was doing heroin. Like everybody's not a hype, man, in the black community. But they like this, the media has basically, first of all, I sold dope, okay? Like, motherfuckers don't know about dope. All they know is what they see on TV about dope. I know motherfuckers who use dope, okay? And they ain't all out here hyped up all day, every fucking day, like Pookie on New Jack City trying to get a hit. That's the facts, man. I'm telling you the truth. Like, I know motherfucking dope heads that got more money than the average. Yeah.
You see this book here?
Gigi, I got something to push back on. So look, we can talk about these chicks all we want, and we can talk about these women and the issues we have with them, but I feel like the same thing that we doing right now, even as black men and as a black identity, is almost the same thing that they're doing. So it's kind of a hypocritical stance. Like, so we could say, for instance, when we just started talking about, the typical popular right-wing conservatives, instead of worrying about the message, we try to just dismantle the messenger. So I think there's still a bias problem in the, when you consider somebody conservative, you want to dismantle the messenger instead of, approaching the message. So my example in that case was like, okay, I did watch the same video you watched where he said, black people got the, bad motherfucker attitude, which is, you know what I'm saying? And some of the things that the soul says too. I don't think it has anything to have to do with who got the biggest nuts or what position they want specifically in. But come on, we just can't just try to dismantle the messenger. Even as men, we got to deal with the message, and I feel like the message is correct.
Yeah, I get it, man. Like, as far as I'm concerned, like men having temper tantrums and cursing each other out, that's 3-year-old shit. That's not evolved in civilized culture. Mm-hmm. That's why I said, like my monologue in the beginning was facetious and, sarcastic. But, the nigga you hate is you. I mean, the street motherfucker you don't like is you. Because if you threatening people and huffing and puffing and losing control over having a civilized debate or having an argument, with an individual over ideas, what does that speak about your character? It means you're not in control. You're not in control of yourself. You don't know how to practice restraint. That's dangerous, man. That's dangerous. Okay, and yes, ideas, when they become too firmly entrenched in your psyche, can be a threat to your worldview, and it can, create disequilibrium. I get that. I understand that. But at the same time, don't journey into intellectual space and act like you're an intellectual, but then you can't take any intellectual challenges. But then also, though, a lot of this comes from the media where, they see, guys on the right wing being dismissive and rude to people who have different viewpoints than them. And like Fox News has that model, or Rush Limbaugh, like where you don't really get to the argument and have evolved conversation. It's just, ideology being spewed, sophistry and demagoguery. I'm willing to listen to anybody and any individual, and even people I disagree with, I think I can learn from all the time. Okay. So, and That's just my viewpoint on it, man. I like to have
Like,
conversations. I'm not trying to win. Like I'm trying to show you I can argue better than you can, man. Fuck all that, dude. Look, and then look, half of these guys, man. Look, I know the rules of logical inference, backwards and forwards, man. I've taken formal logical classes. I know a bad argument when I hear it. I know bad ones when I make them, and sometimes I do. Okay. I'm not perfect, never claim to be perfect, but I think you're right on that idea. Don't kill the messenger, kill the message. Don't kill the man presenting the idea. Don't lose control and get to the point where you're about to have a conniption and spaz out. Just, just deal with the argument, man. And if you're wrong, have some humility. And that's another thing that's lacking: humility, being humble. If you're wrong, I'm not deeply religious, but I think the book of Proverbs is right on this. The person who doesn't love correction is a fool.
That's true.
If you don't like to be corrected when you fucking up, you are a damn dummy. That's practical wisdom right there. Like knowing that, okay, I fucked up, I was wrong, being able to apologize, being able to say, I don't know it all. Oh, I can learn. The greatest generals learn from their enlisted members. You understand what I'm saying? Like that's why Napoleon was so successful.
Exactly.
You don't have all the answers. Just like Kanye talking about
one more.
Okay, then I'm out of here, man.
I think we need.
Go ahead.
One more thing I think we need to also consider. One more thing I think we need to also consider, like, just even the label black, and this even, all the race labels, the white, the black, because we put a pigeonhole ourselves into a feeling, into a certain bias, where we have certain thoughts we can't just like you kind of said just a little bit earlier. And I think all of this white black is just a class structure. And when we start letting loose of that, we start letting loose of these cultural values that we've been hugging these shits too tight, damn near 60 years, 80 years, in order to lose that title of always calling ourselves a slave or referring to slave history, we gotta almost lose this black title. And a lot of people do not like that because they've got whole channels, whole economies around that label. Honestly, like I honestly think this is one of the things that'll fix the whole society. Just losing that label and just being shitty, but losing that label and just being who you are, so you can start from a new stupid stance. That's my piece.
Yeah, I get it. It sounds nice. The only pushback I have on it is, look, we didn't start this race shit. It's not like, and I've said the same thing you said. Like my dissertation, the last chapter is, look, we should be moving forward to the age of empathy, to the point like where you started off with the tribe, okay, and the tribes went to the great irrigation civilizations. The Nile River gave birth to Kemet in Egypt. The Tigris, Euphrates gave birth to Babylon. Okay. And people began to sublimate their tribalism by identifying as being members of these civilizations, which eventually, they got, they failed. Okay. Like Rome failed. Okay. Then you get in Europe, the Dark Ages, then you get the rise of Muslim culture. Okay. The Mohammedans or whatever, the Saracen culture. But then you get the emergence of nation states, right? Which, for the most part, gave birth to European culture, finding a way to sublimate their tribalism. But the next move is to try to sublimate nation statehood and to understand that, like humans, like we all come from the same stock. Like human beings have more in common genetically than we do in difference, but the phenotypic differences become the reasons for which we create new kind of tribalisms. Okay. Now, but at the end of the day, though, I'm still not sold on the idea. Like, I'm not a modern thinker. Like, I think modernity is wrong. I think when I say modernity, I'm talking about people like John Locke, Thomas Hobbes, John Jacques Rousseau, David Hume, Immanuel Kant. And, I mean, they had this big idea that like human beings are born free, and they have rights given to them innately by nature. I'm like, that shit is that's a fiction.
Yeah.
Human beings live in association. That's how we always have lived. Okay, but now it's so many people living together. We don't get the opportunity to know each other. We live in these big ass metropolitan complexes, and we don't have community because we don't even know each other. Motherfuckers live next door to you. You don't even know them. You might live in an apartment complex and never come into contact with your neighbors for real, other than hi, bye. Oh, I'm staying out of their business.
It's like that here. It's like that here where I am.
But human beings long for connection.
Yeah.
But society is telling us that we can do whatever we want to on our own. But the things that make human beings happy is camaraderie, not communist camaraderie, but like camaraderie in terms of friendship. And being a vital member of a community. And we've lost the art of that because society, it's just the conditions that are giving rise to this individuation. But my hope is at some point, like cats and dogs don't discriminate against each other on the color of their fur. Human beings shouldn't either. We shouldn't. Okay, but until the time that shit is over with, we got to have some sort of black identity in order to resist against. Until whiteness is over with, blackness ain't gonna be over with, bro. Whiteness needs to whiteness needs to end.
But there's no, you can't dismantle that from inside the power structure. You know what I'm saying? That's how I feel. It's almost like nobody's saying go back to Africa, but there definitely has to be a culture switch. And as long as we align with that word, I almost think it's like we automatically attribute like a negative 50 to whatever the hell we trying to do. Now, some people you would never even like let's say Cardi B, for instance. She calls herself black, but her parents are neither one are black. You know what I'm saying? So she attributes herself to the culture where she really didn't have to. She could have been a whole nother person in a whole nother different part of music, not hip hop culture. But I'm saying that to say is like we really don't have to align with what the media gives us to align to. Just like Jews, they could just walk the street and call themselves German. You know what I'm saying? But they align with being Jewish because there's positive attributes to it. It just sometimes it comes a time, I'm not saying be a race trait or whatever, but sometimes that label is almost a death sentence.
Yeah, but the only part about it though, and then I'm gonna end this. Somebody named Lil Bunny said, can he join or she join? But at the end of the day, this is my viewpoint on it. I didn't ask to be black. I was born with the physical characteristics of blackness in American society. Okay, it could be it is a social construct insofar as it's a way to cleave human beings apart from each other unnaturally. Okay, and to basically it's all about resources and material advantage. That's all this is. It was ever about to begin with. Okay, and so there's a whole host of issues I got with the society in which we live. That's one of them. I hope that at one point in time, we can get over this bullshit and just be humans traversing, the universe on a spinning ball. I hope that one day we can get to that and understand that we have more in common than we do in difference. But if you say fuck me, it's fuck you. I hate to say that. Like if you come in at me with a whole bunch of, if you're trying to prevent me from being able to live a well-lived life on account of a characteristic that I did nothing to have or to obtain, then we got a problem. That's it. And shout out to Mr. Heat. I apologize if you were looking to get on and you weren't able to get on because you said you falling back. I apologize, sir, because I know you support me and I love your interactions, man, and your motivation. So, but at any rate, man, I ain't gonna keep this going too long. We're almost
good look, y'all.
But GG, I just wanted to say in relation to you referring to Proverbs, there's a very short verse. It makes a lot of sense and is deep. Without vision, a people perish.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. So at any rate, man, thank you, man, for joining me. I know the beginning of the show was kind of alarming, but you know I did it for sarcastic effect. And peace out to y'all, man. I'll try to get here tomorrow, you know, and do a show. But until that time, man, y'all be peaceful, man. I'll holler at y'all. One.
All right, peace.
Peace.